Hello, everybody, and thank you for another video of our series, SQL for Data Analysis. Today, we'll be talking about views, the usefulness of views, and the benefits of why we use views in SQL. Um, Please, if you haven't and you're new to the channel, could you please do us a favor and subscribe to the channel and like the video, and so that you can get notification whenever we upload a new video. So today we'll be talking about a view in SQL, which is part of the table expressions in SQL. Earlier, we've talked about derived table, what we can do with derived table. We talked about CTE, which is common table expressions. We talk about how its usefulness. And we'll be going into view now to talk about what the view can do for us. Like I explained earlier, the CTE and the views are not reusable because they do not exist in the database. They did not exist as an object in SQL, so they are not reusable. But as part of the family of table expression, there is another two tables as part of the family of the derived table, the table expressions that are reusable. One of them is the view, and the other one is the inline table valued function. But in this series, we're not going to be talking about inline table value function. We'll talk about views. The view is reusable because of their definition, because they are kept in the database permanently when we create them. And some of the usefulness of the view is that the benefit of using a view when you write your code or trying to interact with your data analysis operation is that the view can help for data abstractions. The view help you abstract the underlying complexity of your table or your database and allows users to only interact with those specific records that you need for your specific report rather than querying the whole table every single time. The view is good for security enhancement because the view can restrict access to certain columns, presentations, and allow control and kind of like protect you unauthorized users of those particular columns. The views can help you only make use of um, specific queries that you have deduced or reduced the complexity of any queries, and you put it inside of a view, you can easily use them. You can work on multiple joins and manipulate them once and put it in the view. It also helps for data integrity because the view can contribute to data integrity by providing a consistent and standardized way to access and manipulate data, which helps us to reduce risk of errors. The views is good for performance because remember, a view is a materialized view can be used to store pre-computed results, improving your query performance and avoid us to and avoid the need to rewrite your your queries every single time. Now, what is a view? A view is nothing other than a virtual table. A view is reusable. It exists in the database and it can be used multiple times. So without further ado, let's jump into SQL and understand what a view is. So here I am in an empty SQL new SQL session. We're going to start by understanding what a view is. So, but before I do that, I have to start writing a query. The first thing I will do in this instance, I will first of all pinpoint to my database that I want to use, which is the Paulins consort. Say go. And I will run this query by pressing F5 to just run it quickly without coming to the execute. But yeah, you can write, if you want to run everything in your session, you can just press F5 and not come down here. Now, like I said, a view is a virtual table. It is made up of queries, predefined queries that you have written and you put it inside of a view. So to understand what a view is, the first thing you need to know is that you have to write your query, a valid SQL code that you have tested and validated that that code works before you can tie it into a view. That is the best practice. So for that, let's run a query that will check for the patients and their providers and maybe address. So the first thing I will do, I want to write a query that will pull record from the patients table, dbo.patient, and I will also be writing a query. I will also be writing a query that will pull record from, let's say, the provider table to see what providers see in any particular patient. So if I run this patient code, I can see that I have patient, first name, last name, their middle name. We can put the agenda and other basic informations. And if I run the provider table, I can see that I have a provider ID. I am not seeing the patient table, sorry, the patient ID. So maybe they are not related directly, they are related in a certain different way. So we'll try to figure out how they are related. So the patient, we can try to maybe, because we're not learning join now. Join is not our priority at this point. So I don't think we even need a join for this. We just want to get the basic of understanding what SQL can do for us with the view. So at this point, I am just going to put the first name of the patient, the last name of the patient. Um, oh, this is not the patient table. Sorry. Let me get the patient information. So I will get the first name of the patient. I want to get the last name of the patient. I will be getting the date of birth of the patient. And how about we get the gender of the patient? And also, let's say we want to get their phone number. We get the phone number of the patient. Phone number of the patient. So if I run this code like this, I have this information. Now remember, the actual table have a lot of columns, but on our daily report, for example, let me say I work in an organization where I only need this specific information for my patient. Let me give a random report name. I always write this code or this data set for my patient extraction report, for example. And I don't want to be writing or running this code. There might be a problem. There might be inconsistency with another person wanting to write their own code. So I want to keep it consistent. So I decided to put this guy inside of a view so that this entire data set will become a table. Now, with this table, I can easily be calling the table every single time. So if I run this code and my colleagues run this code anywhere in the organization, it will always be the same code. Rather than them writing something different, I am writing something different. The reports are all over the place. So to make this guy a view, the only thing I want to do, the concept of a view, is that pay attention. This code is going to disappear because I will cut it and remove it, but I will bring the code back. I don't want to get us distracted. So I will cut the code and put it on my clipboard. And this is the syntax of creating a view. The syntax of creating a view, I start with the word create. I call, what do I want to create? I want to create a view. I can create a view, I can create a table, I can create stored procedure, I can create a trigger. So whenever you create something, you want to tell SQL what you want to create. So I want to create a view, and the next thing is my view name. So view name, oh, let me do it this way. View name, and followed by the keyword AS, and in here will be my inner code. I'll just call this guy inner query. And outside of it, I can put, just for decency and well structured, I can put a goal to end it. So this is the syntax of creating a view. And now if I am able to create this view like this, I can now interact with the view by writing my regular select star from the view name. View name. So this is how the whole the history behind the view is. So with this, let's create a view of the query that we had before. So all I'm going to do now, I will plug and chalk with this syntax. So what I did, I took this other guy off, or I may leave it. Let me just leave it. I'll come down here. I want to create a view name. I say, give me dbo dot, I can call it patient extraction view or report. And in front of it, I will put a small letter view to indicate that that thing is a view. It is not a table when somebody sees it in my report. It doesn't matter what you do. It's not part of the convention, but it's just like some kind of like a clean way to do some certain things. So this view called patient extraction report, I will on my clipboard, I have that query I wrote earlier. I can paste that code. Now, when I paste this code, I can run this query to create this view called vPatient extraction report. At this point, I execute the view. When I execute this view, for me to physically see where this view is stored, remember, you can find where tables are in SQL by going to database, locate your database, which is this database is what we're looking for, click on the plus sign. I have tables. If I want to see tables in my database, I can click this table and it will list all the tables that are associated to this particular database. But we are not looking for table. We want to look for this view that we just created. To locate this view that we created, we can come down to the database, click on the database, expand the database. Underneath the tables, there is something called a view. Click on the plus sign for the view. It will list the views that are inside of that particular database. And you can see that we have just one view. And that view that we have is this guy, extraction. So that is how we can find the view. And that's the location where we can find the view. So with the view created, I want to select the view to find out that table. So I put dbo dot v patient extraction report, and I can see it. And now if I run it, I have that table, that data set that I have as a table, because why? It appeared in the from, and this table is a virtual table. So now we have this view, for example. We have created this view for 3 days now, and they have been using it. But now my manager wants me to add an information to this view. Sometimes you might think the best way to do the view, so my manager wants me to add additional information like the email address that, oh, they just found out that this particular information do not have email address on the view. and they want me to add an email address. Now I make a judgment call. What do I do from this junction? Should I drop and recreate the view or what? If I decide to drop and recreate the view, what if that view is being used in production and somebody is already using it in real time of report? It could break something. And what if what I am trying to create breaks and it messes up other people? So the point I'm trying to make here is that if I have a situation where I need to add to the view, I do not need to drop and recreate the view. I can alter this view and add what I need. So what I mean is this. So remember that the current view that we have, if I run it again, I do not have an email address on the current view. So, but now what I want to do, I want to alter this view. So I'm going to come down here. I'll make a comment and say, alter, alter a view. So I can come down here, paste this code, but rather than create, I want to say alter. So I'm altering the view, and after the alter, I want to add the email address that they asked me to add. And when I do that, so I did not touch the original view. I just alter it to drop this one column inside of it. So with this, if for example, my alter statement did not work, it will not override the original view. So anybody using it will not even notice that something has happened. So I can come down here, run the view. It says it's completed. So I can go back to the same original code and execute it, I see the email. So like within the twinkle of an eye, I was able to add a column without anybody knowing what just happened. So we can easily alter a view and write the view and change it, change something and whatever thing that we want, and it will work. So another thing I want to move on to is something called a view option. View options. So we can create a view with an option. With an option in the sense that we can put something called an encryption on the view. We can also add something called schema binding. What exactly is this? And then an encryption, adding an encryption to your view. So basically, when we create a view with when we create a view with an option, we are adding a characteristics. We are adding some kind of features to that view that will add additional flavor to the view to make it more secure. Remember, one of the benefits is security and stuff. So the encryption will help indicate to SQL that we so basically whenever we create a view with an encryption, we are indicating to SQL that we want to internally store the text of that particular view. We want to hide it. So basically, we want to hide how that view is created. So we want to obfuscate the definition of the view so that nobody can see it. Now, what is the benefit of creating a view like that? A benefit of creating a view with obfuscation or creating a view with encryption is that it will enhance a data security. Take, for example, that you create a view that pulls patients' information. We all know that working in healthcare, there are a lot of things you need to be very, very careful. PHI, PII, all the whole HIPAA laws abide to patient data and personal identification information and all those things. So if I want to create a view, it can really enhance the security if I prevent unauthorized access to sensitive informations like that. And use cases of creating a view with an encryption could be when we are dealing with, like I said, privacy informations. We don't want people to see what and how we create the view so that they don't understand what is going on that view. We can create it we can create the view with an encryption. So let me show you what I mean by obfuscating the view, so that sort of obfuscation the view by writing it with encryption, because the idea is that without encryption we can see the definition. With encryption we cannot see the definition. So, but before I create a view with encryption, let us check the definition of this view that we created that is plain. No no options to it. So if I come down here to see the definition of a view, if I want to see the definition of a view, I can select the object definition of that particular view. For example, if I come down here, I say select, let me put a comment here, say select the selecting the definition of an object. So if I come down here, I say select. I want to select the object definition. Immediately it came out. The object definition is what I want to select. I open and close the parentheses. And after I open and close parentheses, let me hover around it so that you see what it says. It says it requires 1 to 3 argument. I'm only going to supply one argument. And that argument that I'm going to supply is the object ID. The object ID being the view that I need, and that view that I need is this view. So I'll put a single quote because it is a string, so I'll put it in there. So if I run this guy now, I made a mistake somewhere. So open parenthesis, one open parenthesis, I need to close it. I did not close this one. So I close this and run it. It tells me that this is the view. So if I copy it and come down here and paste it, this is the view that I just created earlier. So exactly how it is created. So let me just arrange it so that you can see that this is what the query that I just ran produced. So you can see that you can get the definition of an object like this. So this is the view I created. But now I created this view without any option. So let's recreate this same exact view, but this time we'll create it with an encryption. We're going to encrypt the view and see how it behaves. Then we will run this same thing again, the same view. So I will come down here. This is the alter statement. I don't want to rewrite it. I'll just grab this alter statement. I can come down here. I can now say recreate view with option. So I can come down underneath and I paste the same view, but this time I want to create the view with something called with encryption. Yeah, don't worry about this. It's just view being sensitive. So it's fine. So maybe to stop this guy, maybe I can put this go statement here and see what it does, and that is fine. So view behaves like that sometimes. So now if I run this code now, execute this code, it tells me it is successful. Now, this same code we ran earlier, let me take it, come down here. Oh, I can still query the view. Normally, originally, it doesn't do anything. We sees everything. But I want to see the definition of this view like we saw it earlier. If I come down here, paste the same code that we ran earlier, and I run it, it tells me no. It tells me I can't find it. Why? Because we have encrypted the definition. So if I have sensitive information here, nobody will see it again. But prior, when we did it, we ran it and it worked. I'm running, I'll say recreate view with encryption. Let me just put with encryption. With encryption app option. So we can see that it worked and we encrypt the definition of the view so that nobody will see it. So that is what we get when we create a view with schema binding. Sorry, with encryption. And the next thing we want to talk about, we'll talk about creating a view with the schema binding option. So a view and a view and something called user defined function can be created with a schema binding. And what does it mean to create a view with a schema binding? When we create a view with schema binding, we are binding the referenced object and the column to that schema together. So for example, if I create a view and put any columns and table into that particular view and create it with a schema binding, I am binding the view with that table together. Anything that is referencing, that view is referencing, are binded together. So with that, nothing can happen to the view. Sorry, nothing can happen with that table without going to let the view know that, hey, I'm about to do something to this particular table. One of the benefits of creating a view with schema binding is that it improves performance and enhances the data security when you bind the view to the underlying tables that you're pulling into that particular view. And scenarios or use case that you can use or that you can use schema binding is whenever you are trying to ensure data consistency. You don't want one column to be in this place and you tomorrow before you find out that that particular column has been dropped or you don't know. For example, let me take something for example. You have 20 columns that you pull into your Power BI report. Now, these 20 columns that you pull into your Power BI report, you came back one day, you refresh your Power BI broke. What happened? You don't know what happened. Maybe the business or the DBA or whatever has dropped one column from the table that your Power BI is feeding off of. Your Power BI broke. But if you create that Power BI with a view that is created with schema binding, nobody can drop that column. That column will stay in place and nobody can drop it. We'll see an example of what we're talking about. So we're going to create a new view. I don't want to drop this one. So I'm going to create a new view with the same data set. But remember, please, that everything we're doing here, you can do it from any database. You can do it from any situation, any location. Okay. So I'm going to just say patient extraction. I won't put the report. I'll put patient extraction. And rather than encryption, I will say schema binding. Yep. If I create the view like this, again, don't worry about it, but I can shut this guy up by just putting a go here for it to complete. So if I create this view with schema binding, for example, if I run this code now, the code works, no problem. And it says it's good. I can query the view. This is the view that I want to create. I can create a view. The view. And if I run it, and now if you look to the side, you cannot see this view that I just created with schema binding, or because you need to refresh it. So if I come down here on the view, right click on it and say refresh. And once I do that, I can see the view that I just created with schema binding. Right? So now I have created this view. I can see it. Now let's try our object check, that if we want to check the object of this particular view, right? So if I come down here and I take the report off and I run it, you can see I can see the view. I can see the definition. So those are the place you want to decide what you're trying to do, the needs and the benefits of the views. If you're working with sensitive information, you don't want people to see the definition of your view, create your view with encryption. If you want to create a view and you don't want anybody to drop any object, you want that column that you put in that view to stay, you create it with schema binding. So for example, now let me write a simple code to try to drop this column that this view is using from this table. So if I come down here, I write a query that says, I will alter the table. What table do I want to alter? I want to alter the patient table, which is where the column is coming from, that this view is using. I want to alter the, again, this is an advanced piece of the class. Okay. If you're interested, please leave a comment on the video, on the video, and I will make some new videos like this depending on what you want. But we can alter table, alter column, change a lot of things, which is an advanced piece of SQL. So I will say alter table. That is the table that I want to alter. So it's giving me access to go into this table. And after I have altered it, I want to drop the first name column, this column. See what happens when I run this code. So I want to drop column and I want to drop this column. So if I come down now and run this query, it tells me a message. See the message it says. It says the object v patient extraction, which is my view, depends on the first name column for existence. So the alter drop column first name failed because one or more object is accessing that particular column. So this is where I was saying that if you create a Power BI report, Tableau report, a machine learning that is depending on a particular column from the database, nobody can mess around with that particular field because you use schema binding to build that particular report. And that is the end of the video for this particular view class. And in summary, what I want to say is that in summary, the views are very, very useful. One good thing before I really go into the summary is that the view is accessible by any session that is open in our query. And another people can also receive it because it is existing. So if I go to another session, for example, I can run that view. I can say select star from the view say view patient. I can run the view here. I will still see the result. But the derived table is only accessible to the session that creates it. CTE is only accessible to the session that creates it. And another thing to remember is that the view follows the rules that was mentioned in our previous video of CTEs and derived table. That order by is not guaranteed. All the columns must have a name, and there is no duplicate column. So those are the things we need to know while we create our view. And in summary, a view will provide data abstraction, it will provide security, it will provide performance benefit, and we can create our view with an encryption to encrypt the definition of our views. We can create our view with schema binding to ensure that the view object is binded with the table that is referencing it. And on top of that, the view is a very, very good thing. These options are available when you are working an in-depth or a little bit of an advanced piece of SQL, because you can do a lot of useful things. And please, this is the end of the video. Our next video will be coming out soon, which is we're going to be talking about Windows functions. We'll talk about roll number, the over, partition, lead and lag. We'll talk about very useful things. So stick around. Please encourage me, like the video, subscribe to the channel, build the channel. We'll have a lot of fun things coming up. So I thank you. This script will be available. Go to the GitHub through the link below, and you will have this script for today. And I thank you very much. Please have a great day and happy holidays. Bye-bye.